I am so white. So this was not planned. I just kind of had some time to kill. I have an hour before I go to work, and I figured, you know what, this is probably a good time to kind of talk about this because I've got some important things coming up, specifically a doctor's appointment this coming Thursday, and it is Tuesday, so in a couple days from now, I'll be going in for my doctor's appointment because I was diagnosed with IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. Oh gosh, when? A good while ago. Almost a year now. I just wanted to talk briefly about that because it's been on my mind a lot lately, and I haven't really had any source or any outlet for this. I haven't had any really way to get it off my chest other than harassing my loved ones and the people I care about, and I feel bad when I do that because it's a constant, continuous thing, and I feel like I wear on people. And this isn't going to be one of those videos where I cry or, you know, feel bad about myself, mostly because I just did my makeup and it looks really good, and I am not trying to ruin that. I did just want to talk briefly about what it's like to have, I don't want to say this disease, it's not a disease, this illness, for lack of a better word. I hate saying that because, anyway, I want to talk briefly about it and the effect it's had on my life and the reality of it because it sucks. It really fucking sucks. It sucks to have. It is one of the worst things to ever happen to me, and I hate saying that because it sounds really dramatic, but it's true. It's incredibly painful. It's the worst pain I've ever been in my life by far, and it sucks to have. And a lot of the times I feel like in movies and shows and everything, it's played off as this joke. Like, oh, this character has IBS, it's really funny, let's just fucking make fun of them. That's their entire personality, is to have this illness, it's so funny. And I just got sent a message on Instagram. Don't get me wrong, I'm one of the first person to make those IBS jokes, because I joke through everything. I'll make a joke out of anything. You know I'm really struggling if the first thing I do when you ask me how I'm doing is make a joke and do finger guns, because that's how you know I am going through it. When movies and shows and books, whatever, any media, makes IBS as this joke or something that's like, oh, this character shits their pants, which, at least for me, that doesn't happen. That's not my experience. I don't know, the day's young. When they make it into a joke like that, it kind of sucks because I'm afraid to tell people that I have IBS because they're like, oh, thanks for telling me, I didn't need to know that. And first of all, you asked, you know, what's wrong with you? Why are you in so much pain? Well, I have IBS. Ew. I didn't need to know that. It's like, you asked. Actually, I should say, my doctors don't know if I have Crohn's disease or IBS. They're leaning more towards IBS, but they haven't really specifically ruled out Crohn's yet. A while ago, my doctor said that he thought that I didn't have Crohn's. He's like, no, we can rule it out, we can rule it out. And then now that I'm continuing to have my symptoms and my pain, he wants to do more tests about it. So I'm not quite sure what I have. It's either IBS or Crohn's, but for the sake of this, I'll just say IBS. Because I know I have that, at least. At very least. I'm sure there's other things I'm going to be finding out on Thursday, but I have that. Going back to what I said, when I see my illness played off as a joke, it sucks. It really does. And I hate to be that person, because obviously I'm not discriminated against for this. I am not, you know, it's not an issue of, you know, race, anything like that. It is not even close to being that serious, but it still fucking sucks when this thing that you suffer with that makes your life actual, no exaggeration, living hell sometimes is played off as this joke or this disgusting thing that no one wants to talk about. Because primarily for me, it's been pain. It's been incredible, horrible, agonizing pain. And I know that it seems like I'm exaggerating when I say that, but there have been times where my gut pain, because I usually feel it in my abdomen, my lower abdomen, underneath my left rib, even in my legs sometimes, where the pain gets so bad that I'll throw up, I'll faint. I faint quite a bit because of my illness. I will black out, and I'll be absolutely delirious. I'll be completely delirious. I won't know who I am, where I am, what's going on, because the pain is that bad. And like I said, I'm not saying this to, elicit pity or complain or anything like that. It's just the reality of the situation is it really sucks. It's a lot to deal with. I mean, this is a part of the video where it's going to be a little, TMI, so I do apologize for that. No, I don't. I don't apologize for that at all. If you don't want to watch this, fucking click off. I can't make you watch this. I can't make you leave. You're a grown person. Live your life. But my pain usually gets bad if I'm able to, successfully go to the bathroom. And a lot of the times I'm not, because that's part of my illness. And that's part of what makes it very painful, is I'll have a lot of trapped gas in my digestive system that's just there, and it makes me feel, it's makes me bloated, it's incredibly painful, things like that. Hi, Ty! This video is about Ty now, in case you weren't aware of that. Going back to what I was saying, it hurts, and it sucks, and I have to avoid certain foods, and the frustrating thing about that is that a lot of the time, I don't feel like that helps. A lot of the time I will avoid, so there's a list of food I'm supposed to avoid. I don't listen to it as much as I should, just because I know personally my trigger foods, what gives me that horrible pain, those muscle spasms, that trapped gas. And there's foods that people with IBS in general should avoid, anything with high lectins. So, tomatoes, peppers, chilies, anything that's going to kind of aggravate your stomach, your colon, your intestines, anything like that. You're supposed to avoid those. I personally have a hard time with all three of those, and also broccoli for some reason. I have a really hard time with broccoli. I can't do tomato sauce, because tomato, there's also something they put in the sauce, I think it's a mixture of spices, tomato, everything that just absolutely destroys me. It is so painful. Tomatoes are out to kill me. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that while that does help, it doesn't fix my problems. And I didn't, I didn't think that cutting those foods out of my diet would immediately make me feel better. I knew that this would be a process, that it would be a long-term thing, that it would not just be an overnight fix. And it's been kind of frustrating trying to find things that I can eat when I'm having flare-ups that don't just add to the pain or make me throw up, or just don't work out for me in general. And that's been kind of a process, trying to get those foods figured out. The only thing I have so far that definitely works for me is bananas, which I have a hard time eating because I only eat them when I'm sick or having a flare-up, so I associate that taste, the taste of bananas, with that pain and that nausea. So my brain's kind of Pavloved itself into hating bananas. But that's a whole process. I really want to talk about something that's really been heavy on my heart and my mind lately, has been how having IBS affects my depression, my self-worth, my willingness to, get out of bed, face the day. Because for those of you who, know me closely, or have talked to me even a little bit at all, I'm pretty open about my mental illness, just like most of my friends. We're all very open about our mental illnesses, because thankfully I have awesome friends that don't think it should be stigmatized like a lot of society wants it to be. It's a pretty open conversation with my friends, my family, my loved ones, all that stuff, which I'm very fortunate. But I have severe depressive disorder, where it's depression. It's depression. I have depression pretty bad, to the point where, occasionally I'll have, suicidal ideation. That is very, very rare, thankfully. And that's usually when I'm only in my, darkest moments and I don't see that light. thankfully in those moments, there's someone there for me. There's always something, some way to get out of it, which, like I said before, I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky for this. I have a lot of resources in my life to help with not only my mental illness, but my physical illnesses as well. And so I consider myself very fortunate in that. But when you have a mental illness, such as, depression or anxiety or anything like that, it feeds directly into how your body responds to IBS. Because you have that mind gut, I think it's called. There's this connection with the nerves in your gut and your mind, your mental well-being, thoughts, anxieties, things like that. Where if you're having a day where you're especially anxious or especially depressed, that feeds directly into your pain or your irritability for your bowels, or your ability to go throughout the day without feeling absolutely miserable. And I've come to the conclusion that it's very, very cyclical, where if I'm having an off day, it'll increase my pain, and when I'm in pain, it increases my anxiety. So the two kind of feed into one another in this wonderful endless cycle of suckassery. So that's been kind of an interesting conclusion for me, is that once I kind of get in that cycle, it's really hard to climb out of it, to crawl back out of it. And recently I've been trying to get more into meditation, quieting my mind, seeing if that'll help with the pain. And, every once in a while it does. It really does. I have specific meditations that help you, focus on pain, help you quell the pain, so you recognize the pain instead of trying to avoid it, because that's something that I'll do. I will work through the pain, especially if I'm at work. I have a pretty physical job with lifting boxes, things like that, a lot of standing, a lot of walking, carrying heavy things. It's kind of become a way for me to cope, is to distract myself, usually through work, going to work. The interesting thing about that is that I do work in retail, which anyone who currently does or has had retail experience, it can be incredibly depressing and exacerbate anxieties you may have. Thankfully, I have an incredible job. I work with wonderful, amazing, phenomenal people whom I love dearly, who are very understanding. And thankfully, a couple of them, well, I say thankfully, it's not good, but the reality is a couple of them also have their own, chronic illnesses. And so they understand. They understand that, you're going to have off days, you're going to have great days where you don't feel like you have any problems at all. So I've been very fortunate when it comes to the people I work with, the people who are there to support me in work, at work, things like that. So it's very nice to have those people in my life. But to be quite frank, and like I said, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to, be like, oh, woe is me, feel sorry for me, my life is terrible. Because my life is not terrible. My life is wonderful. I'm very fortunate, and I am very lucky, and I am very privileged. But the reality of the situation is IBS has had such a negative impact on my self-worth and mental stability that it's become a huge problem. It's the main reason that I started going back to therapy, and I found a therapist that is incredible. I love her. Jordan, you're amazing. I've suffered from anxiety and depression since junior year of high school, so when I was about 16. So, oh God, math, 6 years now? How old am I? 5 years, 5 or 6 years now. And it's been getting a lot worse ever since I was diagnosed with IBS. And like I said earlier, it's a very cyclical thing where I was diagnosed, my depression got bad again, my depression made my IBS worsen, which made my depression bad, which made my IBS bad, and blah, 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 blah. It's a constant thing. That's very fun and very exciting. I highly suggest it. There are days, because of my IBS, that I am terrified to get out of bed. I'm very scared to face the day because I know that at any time I can have a very painful flare-up to the point where I'm vomiting or fainting or completely blacking out. And it kind of sneaks up on you, and it's scary. It's the most terrifying thing I've ever dealt with in my life, because I've never been one that handles pain really well, which is funny because I have 7 tattoos and like 20-something piercings, and those are usually pretty okay. You know, I can deal with that because it's, you know, it's part of who I am, it's part of my aesthetic, and it's self-expression, and it's wonderful, but it's very hard to express yourself when you have this embarrassing illness that everyone thinks is an entire joke because it centers around your bowels. And don't get me wrong, the word bowels is funny. I laugh at it constantly. When I start to feel this pain coming on, and I know that there's only so much I can do, I have medication that I got from my doctor. It's called Bentyl, if anyone is familiar with it. I don't remember what the like special science name is for it, but it's an antispasmodic, so whenever my colons and intestines go into spasm, I can take that, and it does help. It does when it's a spasm. Sometimes it's trapped gas, sometimes it is just general irritability, sometimes it's just an ache. It's just inexplicable ache, and that's part of the reason I'm going back to the doctors, because it's been very consistent. I'll wake up in incredible pain. I'll have to pace, you know, back and forth on the room, in the room. Excuse me. I'll lay in bed and completely dissociate because I have to separate myself from the pain. So I'll be laying there out of my mind, just, you know, focusing on nothing but that pain, which is the opposite of what I want to do, but, you know, when you're in that much pain, that's all you can think about. It's horrifying, you know, when you feel that pain coming on. And, you know, like I said, I've never had that great of a pain tolerance, but this is bad even for me. I mean, I had one flare-up. The first and worst flare-up I've ever had was months and months ago. I was in so much pain that I blacked out on the bathroom floor. I was completely delirious. I had my mom come into the bathroom, and because I still live with my parents, I had my mom come into the bathroom, and I just wanted someone to be there with me because I felt like a little kid. I felt like I needed to have, you know, my mommy protect me from this pain, which, you know, looking back is like, are you serious? But in the moment, that was the only thing I had, you know, keeping me on the planet mentally. It was just, you know, her being there, which I appreciate. My mom's awesome. I was in agonizing pain. She said that I asked her to call an ambulance, which, if you know me, you know that I avoid doctors like they're murderers, and I will do anything to avoid going to the doctors. I once had pneumonia, and I didn't go to the doctors for a week because I was so scared. So the fact that I asked my mom to call an ambulance to take me to the hospital shows that how much pain I was in, because I was willing to overlook this legitimate, you know, paralyzing phobia of doctors and hospitals and anything like that, because I was just in that much pain. Since then, thankfully, it hasn't been that bad. Just gonna knock on wood real quick. But I have gotten close a lot of times, and it's a very scary thought to know that, you know, that kind of pain can just kind of come on at pretty much any moment. I mean, sure, I have warning signs, but I can be completely fine and then half an hour be on the floor, you know, puking my guts out or blacking out or absolutely delirious. What it feels like, at least for me, obviously it's a person by person thing. I'm gonna stand up for this. What it feels like for me, I mostly feel it right here in this part of my abdomen, also right below my ribs here, because you have that little bend in your colon right there, and also in my leg. It does grab onto my leg sometimes. What it feels like is someone taking a pair, I had it ready, without even meaning to. It feels like someone taking a pair of pliers like this, clamping onto your gut and just twisting it. It's agony. And I'm not exaggerating. I know that there are so many more painful things. You know, childbirth, I'm sure, you know, getting kicked in the nards is not that fun. I wouldn't have that experience, so I don't know. I know there are other painful things, but it is legitimately so painful that I black out and become delirious, where I forget who I am. And it's terrifying and it's frustrating. And it happens probably once a month for me. Off and on, you know, maybe, you know, sometimes it doesn't happen at all in a month, sometimes it happens twice minorly in a month, but it's kind of a, you know, thing by thing basis, you know. It's very painful. I also get very nauseous. I get very sick to my stomach. Sometimes I do end up throwing up. I faint, like I said, I'm a chronic fainter. I faint at, you know, the slightest thing, so that is just a given at any moment. It's pretty pathetic, but I'll faint. I get full body sweats. Basically, if you've ever fainted or vomited, I'm assuming if you're a human being, you vomited at some point, but that very, like where you feel very cold on the inside and very hot on the outside, and you get a full body sweat, you're shaking, you feel like your vision's constantly kind of doing this. You feel like you're not really in control of your limbs, you have a hard time walking, you're just completely out of it. You know, you're slurring your words if you can talk at all. It's a whole experience, and it is really, really fun. It sucks. It does. That's just what I keep boiling it down to. For the past couple weeks or so, it's been a constant flare-up, which, like I said, is why I'm going to the doctor. But on an average day, it doesn't bother me much. I'll get, you know, maybe a little twinge here or there. I still have to avoid my trigger foods, but for the most part, it's completely manageable. But when I do have those off days, those really bad off days, it is the most terrifying, most painful, most frustrating experience I've ever had in my life. It just sucks. It sucks, you know? I think the mailman just showed up. Do you have my package? I'll wrap it up. I kind of just wanted to talk about my personal experience with having this illness and just kind of, you know, vent a little bit, explain more how it feels, just kind of be able to have a little bit of an outlet for myself since it's something I deal with constantly, and I feel bad constantly bringing up to the people I love and care about because I feel like I'm kind of a drag on them. So I figure, you know, you have a choice to watch this or not. If you don't want to watch it, I completely understand. If you do, that's great too. I don't know if anyone will watch this, but, you know, it is what it is. It's frustrating, and it's scary, and it hurts, and it makes my life very difficult sometimes, but the reality is that it's something I'm going to be dealing with for a while, and it's something that I'll deal with. You know, I'll deal with it, and I'll deal with it. You know, I have my resources. I have people that love me and support me and care about me and my well-being, and I'm fortunate for that, and I thank those people a lot. It'll get better. I feel like it will. I think that's pretty much all I had to say about that. Like I said, it wasn't planned. I just kind of wanted to sit down and do this and see how it turned out, and that's pretty much it. If you watched this, you know, thank you for watching. Thank you for letting me vent. Thank you for listening to me. I hope you have a wonderful day and live deliciously.